Hello, and welcome to Sarah's Baked Goods. Today we're going to be doing New York Style Cheesecake. It's a very simple recipe, but a very hard one to refine. So, let's get into it. We're going to start with the bottom first. The only real refining you need to do here is decide what kind of graham cracker you want. I prefer this brand. Depending on how sweet your graham crackers are will determine how much sugar you use. I'm using the No Frills brand, which I find is less sweet, so I need to add a bit more sugar, but has a nicer flavor overall. It's very simple. Graham cracker, butter, sugar, and then we bake it for 10 minutes. While that 10 minutes is going, we're gonna start on our filling. Once it comes out, we pour the filling on, get it in a nice bath, and bake it a second time. Before you put the butter in, make sure you mix the sugar and graham crackers up. You don't want the butter only sticking to one or the other. You want it to be mixed nicely. I already pre-measured my butter, and make sure that it's warm, not burning hot. You still need it melted, but you don't need it burning hot. Get it all in there. Mix it up. The other thing you need to realize is, depending on what brand of graham cracker you have, it could be drier or wetter, and that will determine how much butter you need as well. It won't be a crazy amount. Like, the driest graham cracker might need 55 to 60 grams of butter, and the wettest would need 45, which isn't really a big difference in the grand scheme of things. But just figure out what yours is and what you like. Simply just pour this all into your pan. And just make sure that you level this off. Now we're just going to throw this in the oven and get started on our filling. First, we're going to mix the cream cheese and the sugar together. A very easy way to make this easy on yourself is get room temperature cream cheese. It just makes it go a lot quicker, and it blends a lot easier with everything. Now, there's a lot more filling than the base itself, so that's another thing you can change. But be very careful with the base, because if you make it too thick, it doesn't work out perfectly. Beautiful cream cheese. Then we add our sugar. And then we'll just mix this until it's smooth. I'm just gonna turn it on low until it's nice and smooth. I just took out the base. It's looking good. Just leave that off to the side. You'll never be able to finish the whole filling before that comes out. It's just too quick unless you have someone else helping you with it. To speed some things up, we're gonna mix the vanilla with our eggs. Also, the salt with our eggs. And mix that into our filling. So just keep it on slow at first and then slowly pour this in. Now once the eggs are fully mixed in, you can start mixing in your lemon juice and your sour cream. And your flour is last. The reason why you don't put the lemon juice and the sour cream in before the eggs is both of them are acids and could easily curdle your eggs. And if you have both of them in before the eggs go in, you might start to scramble your eggs by accident if it's not fully mixed in. So to avoid that, mixing your eggs in first negates all of those issues that can happen that way. But now that we're all set up, let's put in our lemon juice. And our sour cream. Before I continue, I'm going to scrape down the sides. Make sure I got all of the cream cheese mixed in. I can even scrape off of the paddle. There we are. And that should all be good. Make sure you keep all of it in there. Once this is mixed in, we'll add our flour. To make sure you don't overmix the flour and to make sure that you can scrape everything, I like to put the flour in last and do it by hand. This way the sides and the bottom don't have any large chunks of cream cheese or egg or anything that could cause issues. And because I'm not as strong as the machine, I won't be able to overmix it very easily. I still can overmix it if I go too hard, but be very difficult. And there we are, all good to go. Before we pour this in here, it's easier to get your tin foil ready. And there you are. No water should be able to get in now. Once you have your pan ready to go, pour some hot water. Before you pour this in, because if this starts to leak, then you're gonna have to redo the bottom. Keep this in the fridge while you redo the bottom. Check around. It's looking good. Good. So I put that much in first because I want to test if it's going to leak, but I need to have it little in there so I can still lift it up safely and put it in the oven. Next, we're just going to pour all of this . Just give it a little jiggle and it will level it off. Just a little jiggle. Should be able to lift it. I should have tested this earlier to see if it was going to not leak. What I should have done in the first place was make this tin foil for the base, put it into water, see if it's going to leak, then do this, because you do need to tap a bit of the air out. Make sure that you're not damaging. If you do this the way I did it. But try to do it first testing so that you don't have to mess any of this up. And that should be enough to level it off. We're gonna throw this in the oven for hour and a half to hour 45 minutes. Then we're gonna leave it in the bath for 45 minutes, then take it out. After the time is up, you can turn the oven off. What you're gonna do is jiggle it. If it's firm and it does jiggle, but it's not like sloshing around, it's done. And what you're gonna do is you're just gonna leave it like this for 45 minutes. This will prevent it from cracking. I might have cooked mine slightly too much because it's starting to brown, but other than that, we're gonna be fine. So just leave it 45 minutes and then we'll take it out and decorate it with some fruit. Once you've waited the time, this is what it's gonna look like. Sadly for me, because I don't have a thick enough pan that has water all the way up, mine still had a crack. If you want to use like what I did with just the tray and you don't have a thick pan like mine, what you're gonna have to do is instead of leaving the door open of the oven, just keep the door closed. That keeps the moisture in and the heat will slowly dissipate. And as long as you do it before it starts to brown or just when it starts to brown like me, your thing will be fully cooked and it won't overcook. Luckily for me, the crack is near the center, so I can just decorate with some berries right on that spot and it won't be an issue. The other thing is, for this recipe, almost all covered already. For this recipe, in the bakery I'm gonna have it so that you can get fresh fruits like this that I'm doing right now, or you can get a blueberry sauce on top, or a raspberry, strawberry, or cherry sauce. That will be a fun little treat to add to the list of things. Now the only difference would be removing this fruit and putting whatever sauce they want. And of course, since the sauce is going to take more work and more labor, you would add like 50 cents or $1 depending on how much sauce you're going to give. But this simple design takes 2 seconds to make. You can replace this with raspberries so you get more color instead of just having a big black spot. Or cherries or any fruit you really want. I recommend doing the berries rather than things like oranges and apples because the berries are sweet and complement the cheesecake. The other issues I had was obviously didn't test if it could leak or not. I had a trouble knocking the air out. Not really a big issue. Try to test if your thing is waterproof before you put anything in. That way you don't have that problem. Because what ended up happening is I put water all over the place and it was a bit of a pain. All it really did though was make me have to work more, which is a downside for when you have your bakery. The other issue I have right now is I should be flipping this pan upside down, because for just at home and things like that, it's perfectly fine to do it this way because the way it's designed is it's a circle with a little indent so that it holds everything nicely. And that's perfectly fine at home because you can just cut it and that'll be fine. But it's gonna be almost impossible for me to get this out of the pan without ruining it. And what I should be doing is flipping it over where it's fully flat and then putting parchment paper underneath it. And what that parchment paper will do is that parchment paper will be a catalyst to help me lift it off and make it a lot easier for myself. So those are the few things I'll be changing. Obviously I'm going to be taste testing this, figure out if I want to adjust anything. But this is a pretty basic recipe. The only issues are refining it down with your method to make sure that you don't get that crack, you lose this brownness because you want to have a nice clean topping, trying out different sauces for it, and then making sure that you can get it out so that you can serve it to your customer. Because if I have to give the customer this metal plate, this is going to cost a lot more than it should, because it's going to have to cost the pan itself. And who's going to pay an extra $15 or anything more, depending on like what kind of circle you're using? No one's going to do that. So make sure if you have this and you're going to try and sell it or give it to someone, that you make sure it's the flat side with parchment paper. The reason why it's indented in the first place is it's designed so that it keeps everything nice and tight and doesn't leak or anything like that. Well, when you put the parchment paper on the flat side, it's going to mimic that while still being able to easily lift it off. Anyways, it's looking good. Just going to wait a little bit for it to fully cool down. It's still roomish temperature. I'm gonna be putting this in the fridge. I like to eat this cold because that's how I'd normally serve it. And then I'll tell you how it is. But we're done for today. After taste testing it, this is a perfect recipe for me. The sweet and sour aspect complements the savory part very well. So I won't be changing the recipe, just refining it down, making sure that I get a thicker pan so I get more of a water bath, and obviously have that parchment paper underneath so I can lift it out and be able to serve it easily. I might make one small change with the graham cracker and make a slightly bigger base, but I'm still debating that. We'll figure that out next time. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. I even have my own website. Thank you, and have a nice day.